Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Nicola D'Souza. We'll start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
Singaporean Foreign Minister commends President Maithripala Sirisena on his new program. The nation's real debt burden is 9.6 trillion rupees, a startling revelation from the Finance Minister. Professor Nalin De Silva says the Prime Minister does not have a public mandate to remain in power.
මේරට එක මිනිහෙක්වත් ජනවාරි 8 වෙනිදා ඡන්දෙ දෙන්න ගියේ නෑ ජනහිඳුල ආගමැති කරන්න. එච්චර ඡන්ද බලයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඇයි ආ ජනාධිපතිකමට ඉල්ලුවේ නැත්තේ?
6 officers of the Suryawaba police remanded over the death of a suspect. A witness to the incident is killed in a road accident.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and Law of Singapore K. Shanmugam paid a courtesy call on President Maithripala Sirisena at the Presidential Secretariat today.
Singapore's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Law K. Shanmugam had applauded the new proposals implemented by the new government of Sri Lanka. The visiting minister had said that the new policy framework enables the further strengthening of cooperation between Sri Lanka and Singapore. According to the President's media unit, the visiting foreign minister had praised the government's activities for the betterment of the people of the North and East. The Singaporean foreign minister, who reaffirmed Singapore's support to Sri Lanka in the international arena, also extended an invitation to President Sirisena to visit Singapore. The President's media unit went on to say that President Maithripala Sirisena has wished a speedy recovery for Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore's first Prime Minister. Meanwhile, the new commander of the Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Krishanta De Silva, called on President Maithripala Sirisena today. Former Army Commander General Dayaratnaka also met with President Maithripala Sirisena today at the Presidential Secretariat.
Court has ordered that the wife of former Minister Wimal Weerawansa, Shashi Weerawansa, be transferred to the prison's hospital or to the National Hospital. The order was issued taking into consideration a motion presented by the prisons department to the Colombo Chief Magistrate, Gihan Pilapitia.
The Criminal Investigations Department questioned her for nearly 4 hours and obtained a statement from her. Thereafter, the magistrate arrived and ordered that she be held under remand custody till tomorrow. She is due to be produced before the Colombo Magistrates Court tomorrow. She was arrested under Section 45, Part 1 of the Immigrants and Emigrants Act. For such a crime, a fine of not less than 200 rupees and not exceeding 5,000 rupees and a prison term of not less than 3 years and not exceeding 5 years is applicable.
Meanwhile, the police note that although the wife of former Minister Wimal Weerawansa had in her possession 2 identity cards, the documentation pertaining to them have gone missing.
The documentation is missing at the Department for the Registration of Persons. The officials at the Department of Immigration and Immigration says that while she was attempting to obtain a second passport, what was retained was an electronic copy of her birth certificate. It was due to this that the investigation was delayed. We obtained details from the Central Archive, from Maligawata and from her school. That is when it was confirmed to us that her date of birth is the 1st of February 1967. Considering all the details we obtained, she was arrested the day before yesterday. If any documentation has gone missing from any department, an inquiry will be first conducted at the department, and thereafter, if they are unable to come to a clear conclusion and provide us with a statement, the matter will be taken up with the Criminal Investigations Department. It is the duty of the relevant officials at the departments to deal with these matters.
In a developing story, 6 police officers attached to the Suryawaba police who were arrested over the death of a suspect in police custody have been remanded until the 4th of March. Meanwhile, a witness to the aforementioned incident was killed in a motor accident early this morning.
6 police officers who were arrested were produced before the district magistrate of Hambantota, Isuru Nethikumara, this evening. The magistrate ordered that the suspects be produced in an identification parade on the 4th of March.
The post-mortem examination has revealed that the death is a result of internal injuries caused by beating. A police sergeant and 5 constables had carried out the raid. The Special Investigations Unit of Hambantota had arrested them on manslaughter charges and unlawful assembly.
මනුෂ්‍ය ඝාතනය සහ අයිතු ජනරාශිය කියන චෝදනා යටතේ
The death of the suspect, 35-year-old Leonarachige Samantha, led to the arrest of these 6 police officers. The deceased was arrested on the 19th in Viharagala for the possession of 11 illegal alcohol bottles. However, due to an illness, he was admitted to the Suryavava hospital and was later transferred to the Hambantota hospital. On the evening of the 22nd, the suspect died. Last night on primetime news, when Newsfirst aired this report, relatives and locals charged that Samantha was assaulted by the police.
We can recognize the assailants if we see them. 2 of them, who called themselves police officers, were wearing white caps.
This individual, who claimed that the assailants could be recognized, has provided a statement to the police last night. Unfortunately, while returning home from the police with 3 others in a 3-wheeler, he met with an accident which claimed his life. The 3-wheeler had collided with a van early this morning.
A van was travelling at over 100 kilometers per hour. It knocked us, went away and stopped around 10 or 15 yards away. I fell onto one side. When I got back on my feet, the others were lying on the ground. A lorry came from behind. A young man in the lorry told me to load up the injured as they too were carrying a patient to Hambantota. I pleaded with him to take these people. We were taken to the Suryavava hospital. 1 person had already succumbed and others were taken to Hambantota.
Although there are suspicions over the witness's death in an apparent accident, the police media spokesperson says that there is no connection between both incidents.
මනුෂ්‍ය ඝාතනය සිදු කළ පොලිස් නිලධාරීන් ඒ වගේම මේ සිද්ධිය සහ අදාළ රියානතුර අතර කිසිම සබඳතාවයක් නැහැ.
This accident has no connection to the incident nor to the officers charged with manslaughter. However, there is one thing that needs to be said. A retired police constable had been driving the van which was carrying a heart patient to hospital. He was attached to the Ambalantota police. He had gotten behind the wheel as one of his neighbours had suffered a heart attack. It is this van that had collided with the 3-wheeler.
අර්ධ්‍යාබාධයක් ඇති වෙච්ච නිසා ඒ වෑන් රථය පදවලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වෑන් රථය තමයි මේ ත්‍රිරෝද රථය ගැටිලා තියෙන්නේ.
The police constable, who is incidentally the driver of the van, was arrested and produced before the Hambantota district magistrate. Court ordered for him to be remanded until the 6th of March. According to details ascertained over the ownership of the van, it has come to light that it belongs to a person from Kirivava, Sevanagala.
In other local stories, Professor Nalin De Silva says that Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has been appointed without a people's mandate. He made these comments while addressing a press conference convened by the National Power Organization.
Firstly, I would like to state that the Prime Minister at present is not a legitimate Prime Minister. He is an individual who had pickpocketed the Prime Ministerial portfolio. Not a single person who cast their vote on the 8th of January intended to see Ranil appointed as the Prime Minister. If this commands so many votes, why did he not contest the presidential poll?
එච්චර ඡන්ද බලයක් තියෙනවා නම් අයියා ජනාධිපතිකමට ඉල්ලුවේ නැත්තේ. ඉල්ලන්න බැරි නිසානේ ඉල්ලලා ඡන්දේ හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැති නිසා.
Remember this. It was the presidential election that was held on the 8th of January, not the general election. The president has said that he's the head of the cabinet. That's okay, but the cabinet will not change along with the replacement of its head. There is no mention of such a thing under the constitution. Ranil continues to hold the prime ministerial post due to the condescending mannerisms of SLFP leaders.
ඊළඟ නායකයන්ගේ නිවටකම නිසා රනිල් අදත් අකමැති. මාධ්‍යයට තර්ජන ගර්ජන එනවනම් මං හිතන්නේ මේ රටේ මහ ජනතාව පොදු ජනතාව නැගී හිටිනවා.
I believe the public will rise to safeguard and stand on behalf of media institutions that come under several forms of threats. The most important factor is the people of the country and the country's sovereignty. If those who acquired votes based on promises made to safeguard this sovereignty are acting in a manner which destroys this sovereignty, then we responsibly state that we as public organizations representing the masses and the media must take a stand against this. Even the public must merge here.
මහජනතාවත් එතන තමයි ඉන්ට වෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහගේ මේ එකට සිංහනාදයක් කියලා නම් කියන්න බෑ නිකම් මේ බොරු සිංහනාදයක් මහා ගැම්මකින් කිව්වේ කතාව අහගෙන හිටියන් පස්සේ මට ඒකට
While I was listening to his speech, I remembered the torture room in Batalanda. The torture room was maintained by Ranil Wickramasinghe back in the day, and what I recall next is a poem penned by Mahinda Thera.
ඊළඟට මතක් වුණා ඇස්මහින් දහම්රෝගේ කවියක්. අපේ කමට පිළිමල් වන සතුරු මුල අපේ අයම නම් බිඳිනුම උන්ගේ බල අපේ මුතුන් මිත්තන් මල සොහොන් වල පිපේ එවිට ජාතික අභිමාන මල මේ අපේ කියලා කියන ඉන්න මිනිස්සුම අපේ කමට එරෙහි වෙනවා නම් උන්ගේ බල බිඳින්න අපි සූදානම් වෙන්න ඕන.
The Voice Against Corruption movement has called for inquiries into complaints filed against MP Sajjan Gunawardena at various institutions to be expedited and for legal action to be initiated.
The movement claims that the complaints are clearly specified and the fraud and corruption of Sajjan Gunawardena, who was very close to former President Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Sajjan Gunawardena, who was appointed as the CEO of Mihin Lanka, which was established under the previous government, resigned from the position in 2008 against a backdrop where the airline was incurring excessive losses. Following his resignation from Mihin Lanka, Sajjan Gunawardena established his own aviation company in the year 2009. According to the company's website, it owns 3 helicopters used for domestic air travel, namely a Bell 412, a Robinson 66 and a Robinson 44. The company also owns a cargo plane and several light aeroplanes. The company owned by Sajjan Gunawardena also owns a flying school. Lodging a complaint with the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption recently, the Voice Against Corruption movement claimed that this company has not made any payments to the state with regard to civil aviation. The movement says that the company owes a sum of 415,000 rupees for every month since it was established.
අල්ලසා දූෂණ විමර්ශන කමිෂන් සභාව ඉස්සරහට ආවේ මේ රටේ තවත් කම්බ හොරෙක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් පැමිණිල්ලක් බාර දීලා යන්න ගුවන් සමාගමක් ස්ථාපිත කරලා 2009 සිට
We came before the Bribery or Corruption Commission today to lodge a complaint against another base rogue in this country. He established an aviation company in 2009 and has since become a multimillionaire, owning several helicopters and aeroplanes. This is an individual who prior to 2009 was a storage controller at a company which brings goods from abroad. The question is, how did he amass this much wealth in such a short time? What were his revenue streams? Not only that, this MP Sajjan Gunawardena is to purchase 6 aeroplanes from Texas in the US, for which the central bank has sent money. In addition to this, he has obtained a sum of 1.3 million rupees each from the parents of 120 innocent children in our country, promising private pilots' licenses. A massive fraud has occurred here, and today they have neither the money nor the license. An immediate investigation must be held.
Former State Minister of Civil Aviation Faiza Mustafa took steps regarding this matter and temporarily halted the operations of this aviation company. The Ministry of Ports and Shipping says that at present the company has been granted a week-long operational permit. Journalists questioned the subject minister Arjuna Rantunga regarding this permit on the Satana program telecast recently.
Sajjan
Gunawardena has made a payment for the chopper after your government came into power after you assumed duties. He has paid about 10 or 15 million. There is no problem there. But not even Inland Revenue is asking where this money has come from. An MP who makes 54,000 a month paid out 10 million last week. What is the meaning of this?
MP Ranga, I will explain it to you. When I took over the aviation ministry, Sajjan Gunawardena had handed over 2 checks, one for 19 million and another for 1 million. He has to pay a sum of 27 million. We accepted that because if we did not take that check, we would not get the money. So we put this check in the bank and have received the money. Yes, we have the check. Now we can give it to the relevant institutions. I cannot go and imprison MP Sajjan Vas. No, you shouldn't do it. But you haven't taken any steps regarding where this money came from. Everyone is saying it is good governance and they are doing nothing, so the law will be enforced. The previous government did the same.
Although they say he has paid 20 million, we do not have other information. Whom was it paid to? When? there are no details. We are auditing these files. In some cases where we are unable to locate the files, we have what we call a QQ form. The QQ form has been opened on the 13th of February. We are compiling the list and we are monitoring it. They need to answer. We usually give them 14 days to answer to a letter. If he does not respond, there is action that we can take. We can impose fines, file cases, seize bank accounts. There are many steps that we can take as per the Act legally. We can prohibit him from travelling abroad.
Court has impounded the passport of MP Sajindi Wasgunawardhan at present following a request made by the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption.
If a public official is found guilty of fraud exceeding 25,000 rupees, they are imprisoned for 6 months. But what is happening in this case? What security deposits have the banks obtained from him to give loans of 400 or 500 million? The persons who approved these loans are still in those banks. What legal steps have been taken against them? He left Mihin Lanka and established another aviation company. Where did he get the money from? So if the CID is looking into this and is attempting to send the rogues to jail and the government is attempting to stop it, then we will take steps to reveal the information about them to the people of this country.
Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake made a startling revelation today that the real national debt burden is estimated to be 9.6 trillion rupees, albeit with contingent liabilities. The minister was speaking at a breakfast meeting organized by AmCham Sri Lanka, or the American Chamber of Commerce in Sri Lanka.
The breakfast meeting was held under the theme Sri Lanka, the Way Forward in Colombo this morning. The meeting saw the participation of several cabinet ministers, politicians, diplomats and representatives of the business community.
We basically inherited an economy which had a 7.9 trillion debt. That was what we thought. But today, with contingent liabilities, we have a debt of around 9.6 trillion. We basically thought that FDIs were sufficient enough, but now we find that it was only government-oriented investments that were being brought in, and as a result, clouding out the monies that can be given to the private sector and putting a lot of pressure on the economy.
The interactive session held following the minister's address was moderated by Shamir Rasul Deen, Director of English News at News First. During the session, questions were posed to Health Minister Dr. Ajitha Senaratne on the much-awaited national drug policy.
So I am bringing on the fourth new drug policy act, which will make a revolution in the health sector, because to prescribe all the drugs by the generic name. So both of these, actually those are the main two things in the international policy. So once I draft and finalize, I will discuss with the cabinet, my colleagues, and then I will come to you.
Also speaking during the interactive session, Professor Rajiv Vijay Singha, the leader of the Liberal Party who had recently submitted his resignation as State Minister of Higher Education, highlighted the importance of electoral reform.
I have two very simple principles. This whole country will be correct if we change the electoral system and if we reduce the size of the cabinet to 25, which was what was pledged. And although I very much appreciate the fact that there may be a national government, I still think you need to have 25, because otherwise you'll have all the dead wood. And there's no way of saying no to the dead wood, because they are old men, very keen to render some sort of service to their families, if not their countries. But if you had a principle, it was much easier to say no.
State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardena was grilled on the floating armoury in Galle, which had been the subject of much controversy in the recent past.
From what we see is that they have been issued all the right licenses by the previous regime. So what the problem is, well, they are operating legit in that case. So we have to go and look into who actually gave these licenses. So this has now turned the investigation towards the Lanka, which is a private company which is owned by the government, which was owned by the government, by the Ministry of Defence actually. So we have to actually conduct an audit now to see exactly how the foreign exchange that was coming in to the country? Was it going towards the private company, or what was the basis of the profit sharing and everything?
In his vote of thanks, Nimal Cook, Director and Secretary at AmCham Sri Lanka, provided a fresh observation on the floating armoury controversy.
To Honourable Ruwan Wijewardena, thank you for explaining that floating armoury episode, but I think the main question is not the legality of it, but why was there no competition? Perhaps you should answer that question and go forward on that basis. I agree that the country must benefit in doing this kind of business because it is a pregnant problem in that part of the world. But I would encourage competition and give the private sector a chance, not just one company.
Questions were also posed at this event regarding the government's taxation policy.
About the current taxation policy of your regime, it seems a little arbitrary. You're talking about these one-off taxes. Don't these one-off taxes set a bad precedent? Wouldn't governments to follow also following that precedent?
Many of the areas there were certain assets of the country were given based on nothing. Spectrum were used without any charges that were there. So we only rectified that particular one, and it was just one-off, better than being permanent. So that's the reason that we collected about 90 billion. So I guess you could basically ensure that we can easily get 100 to 150 billion without any hassle, without taxing anymore.
The National Executive Council, which convened today, announced that it has decided to present the 19th Amendment to the Constitution to Parliament in March. The 19th Amendment includes a number of amendments, including the abolishing of the executive presidency. Member of the NEC, Anurukumara Disanayaka, said that the Right to Information Act will also be brought in March.
There were human rights violations in the country in the past. Journalists were abducted, murdered and made to disappear, like what happened to Eknelikoda and Lalit and Kugan. There were many murders that took place in the country, including the one of Lasantha Wickrematunge. A decision was made to appoint a national committee to conduct an investigation on this and bring the perpetrators to book. In addition, the previous administration took away the ancestral lands of the Tamils in Sampur and gave it to companies. A decision was taken to give back those lands to their rightful owners. The code of conduct for MPs were also presented at the National Executive Council.
A 23-year-old was shot dead at the Millennium City Housing Complex in Athrugiriya this afternoon. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana said that 5 other youth who were in the vicinity at the time of the shooting have been arrested. The deceased youth is a resident from Shantalokagama, Athrugiriya, aged 23. The shooting took place in the Olympus unit at apartment number 258. The police have also seized a weapon that was in close proximity to the deceased youth. The police further added that a drug similar to cannabis was found near the deceased individual. The magisterial inquest was conducted this evening. The body of the deceased youth was placed at the Athrugiriya Government Hospital this afternoon. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana says that the reason for the shooting is still not clear. However, the Athrugiriya police have commenced investigations into the incident.
Minister of Public Administration, Good Governance and Buddha Sasana Karu Jayasuriya says that no personal vengeance will be exacted and that the people's money should be safeguarded. The minister made this statement at an event held in Colombo today.
The 24th of April, it's planned that we dissolve the parliament and go before the people and ask them for a mandate to select the political leader. And also, with regard to good governance, the most important thing is the rule of law. The rule of law is very important in the sense that couldn't be executed in the past because the police had a problem. So we are following the part of the good governance system. Therefore, it can take some time, but definitely we have made up our mind that people who robbed the nation, people who wasted the country's fund, people who brought distributed to the country, they have to answer. We have no personal vengeance, but these people's money has to be sort of safeguarded.
The event titled Co-Creating Good Governance saw the participation of a distinguished gathering. The panel consisting Attorney-at-Law Shira Lakthilaka and other eminent personalities discussed the importance of putting good governance into practice.
Coming up on the News First Sports Desk. Gale Force sweeps through the World Cup. Details on Sports First.
With number 22, it's applauded, it's appreciated, it was...
Oh, yeah.
Has he hit that well enough? He's hit that. Oh, he's hit that well.
Choose the call. That is 4.
Welcome back. Farmers from Salyawewa and Anuradhapura demonstrated today demanding solutions over issues pertaining to paddy cultivation.
The demonstrators cited several demands, including the introduction of a certified price for a kilogram of paddy that is enforced by law for the 4,000 rupees in compensation for an acre of damaged farmlands to be increased to 20,000, and also the provision of funds allocated for seed paddy. Farmers from 5 agricultural settlements in the Anuradhapura district presented their grievances to the district secretariat. The district secretariat had promised to provide the compensation for seed paddy within 2 weeks. Farmers from Salyawewa demonstrated opposite the divisional secretariat, also citing several demands. They charged that they have not received the sum of 2,500 rupees per kilogram of seed paddy and compensation for the damaged farmlands. Farmers also raised their issues during the Newsfirst Gammatha program on Saturday in Galimidunwewa, Anuradhapura.
Funds were allocated for seed paddy. I wish to ask whether payments will be made for amendments and appeals that are made in this matter. We have so far distributed a sum of 350 million rupees among the agrarian community for this purpose. We require another 244 million rupees. I discussed this with the Treasury, and the Treasury has promised to allocate the funds. We will be able to distribute that money among the farmers, not only in Huruluwewa, but in the entire Anuradhapura district in the coming days.
Minister of Housing and Samurdhi Sajid Premadasa says that several job opportunities will be generated through the Mathala airport. The minister made this statement at an event held to distribute loans under the Sahanadiriya loan program held at the Fishing Community Public Hall in Donugambehera.
The event saw the distribution of 100,000 rupees each to 180 individuals.
Neither the country nor the district of Hambantota is benefited by the establishment of this airport and harbour. How have they provided employment? It is employment provided through those companies, not employment opportunities granted under the state sector. They said that these two projects will give birth to hundreds of thousands of jobs. How many airplanes actually come to the Mathala airport, despite the promises they made to provide employment to hundreds and thousands? I will state today that we will transform this airport into one which provides not 10 to 15 job opportunities, but one which will provide employment to thousands.
Deeds were presented today to 350 families from Mathura who do not possess their own lands.
The event was held at the Mathura District Secretariat and deeds were distributed under the patronage of United National Party parliamentarian Buddhika Pathirana.
A land revolution came to being in the year 1972. An effort made by late Hector Kobak Hadua during the regime of Siddhamava Bandaranaike under the Reforms Commission Act. The main factor behind this was the problems faced by the public pertaining to land ownership in the year 1971. In a historic event, through positive and progressive steps, here we are distributing land aids. But we will not disregard the errors committed by public representatives within this 67-year history. We are still affected by the consequences.
Western Provincial Councillor Jayantha De Silva says that children pay the price for the wrongs committed by certain parents. He made this statement at an event held at the Walikada prison today.
The event organised to distribute school books and uniforms for children of female inmates of the Walikada prison was presided over by Provincial Councillor Jayantha De Silva. I know the pain that you feel. The children are not responsible for the wrongs committed by their mothers, fathers or even siblings. They cannot choose where they will be born or how, but we have a responsibility to direct these children onto the correct path.
Newsfirst reporter TTM Rija from Bandarwala filed this report today.
A section of a road broke apart in close proximity to a half-constructed building in Bandarwala this morning. Thereby the road which leads to the Sivali Mahavidyalaya and several other areas were blocked.
Newsfirst reporter Bandarwala TTM Rija.
Activist, journalist and the former president of the Maldives, Mohammed Nasheed, is still under detention at the Dunidu prison island in the Maldives.
Yesterday he was presented in court but was severely manhandled by police in Mali as he attempted to speak to reporters outside the courthouse. Newsfirst spoke to a member of his legal defense team and the Maldivian Democratic Network, Mushifuk Mohammed, for an update on the condition of the former president.
Today, Nasheed was brought for medical attention. However, his lawyers or his family wasn't informed of this. And the judge who presided over the case yesterday informed the police to make sure that he gets the necessary medical attention. And the doctor who works at the prison island also recommended that an X-ray be taken in order to acquire what kind of injuries that he had sustained. They didn't communicate with him. They just resorted to manhandling him away from the press. They are required to, throughout the whole time, he was telling that he be allowed to go into the court unhindered. The charges were presented at court yesterday. The charges were filed against 4 individuals. Most of them are free. None of them have been detained. And usually, if more than one person is charged with an offense, all of those people would be brought to court at the same time, and the charges would be presented to them at the same time. So there are many of these aspects where it contravenes accepted judicial norms in the country. The current defense minister is also charged with terrorism, and he is free, and charges haven't been presented against him.
It has been termed as one of the most entertaining innings in the world of cricket.
Chris Gayle made the highest ever score at the Cricket World Cup, belting 215 before being caught out on the final ball of the innings.
It ended the laid-back West Indian century drought which stretched back to June 2013 as he guided the Windies to a total of 2 for 372 against Zimbabwe in the drizzle at Manukas Oval.
Incidentally, West Indies won the game by 73 runs.
Dwayne Smith out clean bowled on the second ball of the match had the Windies 1 for no run. Gale's innings started as a watchful one in an almost runnable century can be watchful. He interspersed some careful nudges with the occasional brutal hit straight, his shots seemingly effortless as they sailed over the fence. Once he got to his century, he started to open up his shoulders and race to his double century, taking just 33 balls for his second 100.
It's appreciated, it was necessary.
That's just 2 balls slower than the fastest ODI century ever, set by South African captain A.B. de Villiers a month ago.
Oh, he's hit that well.
It was his highest ever one-day international score, the highest Cricket World Cup score, and he set a new World Cup record for sixers in an innings with 16.
What a knock this has been, what a return to form.
He's got Gale Force written on his shoes, and he's been
Marlon Samuel also chimed in with a century of his own and was part of the highest ever ODI partnership of 372, but it almost went unnoticed due to the gale blowing at the other end.
No, power failure, he hasn't gotten a hold of it. 3 men underneath it. The catch is taken.
Zimbabwe were given a revised target after rain disrupted play. Their chase was a pretty much slow one, losing their first 3 wickets within 8 overs.
Some of the fast bowlers around the world, give an example. That's up in the air, and it could be out down the third.
However, middle order batsmen Sean Williams and Craig Irwin guided Zimbabwe past 200. Yet, with the pair's dismissal, things went sideways for Zimbabwe, losing their remaining wickets, bundled out for 289 runs. Chris Gayle was awarded man of the match for his record-shattering innings.
Well then, that is that. The West Indies.
Well, that's a wrap of your primetime news for tonight. Thank you for joining us. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Nicola D'Souza.
And I'm Shen Silva. Take care and
good night.